upcoming events this year?
Have we?
No.
It's the whole premise of the show is to highlight happenings, in Moore County, what's going on. And
Well, with 2020, not a whole lot's been going on.
so we've been hamstrung this year.
Very much.
But we've also had an opportunity to speak to people that we know who have shared some of their stories about how they have accommodated their lives, their vocations, their professions, and how everybody is trying to live in a new environment and to get from here to there. But as far as just specific events go, that hasn't been the case until now.
Woohoo! Finally.
Yeah, I mean, we're still under watch, and everybody is still being very careful. And I do notice there is compared to 4 months ago, everybody when they're out and about are wearing masks.
Finally.
When they're going into stores and they're out, and I see that people are paying attention and respecting what's going on.
Yeah.
The thing that I miss the most this year about the type of shows that we typically do have to do with the arts in Moore County, have to do with the students. We used to have shows where we would have upcoming productions. We would have some of the cast members. And some of the kids make the most interesting guests. They have no layers.
Nope.
They come in, they're excited, they're on the balls of their feet, and they're very passionate.
Yes.
And so we kind of have missed that this year. Athletic teams are sidelined.
Yep.
Students are, I don't know, they're getting a little antsy.
I'm sure they are.
I had one mother tell me in frustration with her work timeline and the schools opening and closing and virtual learning and scheduling. She's just said in exasperation, they're not learning anything. And of course the poor parents who are now being forced to oversee their students' education, their children, it's frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
People are looking for things to do. The weather has been cooperative, and we have a chance this week to talk about an event that's going to be happening next weekend. On Friday, the 11th of September, the 12th, which is Saturday, and Sunday, there's going to be a production at the Encore Center, which is at 160 East New Hampshire in downtown Southern Pines. It's across the street from Chapman's, for those of you who might not be familiar. And there's going to be an outdoor production of Alfred Hitchcock's The 39 Steps. Ticket sales have been brisk. I think the way they have it set up as an outdoor, and plus September's evening weather is some of the best of the year.
Yes, it is.
So the brisk sales tell me that people are just sort of itching to get out and do things. We're being joined today by the artistic director of the Encore Center, Greta Zandstra, who has been a past guest on the show, who is very familiar with working with kids in summer programs in the arts, as a coach, as a mentor, as a role model. And Jacob Toth, who is the educational director and associate artistic director at the Encore Center, who has also been a past guest on the show. And I tip my hat to both of you. Greta, in this year, in this environment, life is different, isn't it?
Indeed, it's very different. Who could have foreseen where we would be right now a year ago? Last summer, we just would have had no idea where we would end up.
Tell me about your production is next weekend.
Yes.
Tell me about the Encore Center from its beginning, how it all came about.
Happily, yes. We did open about a year ago, August of 2019. And it was actually sort of an amalgamation of ideas with some folks that I had worked with in other venues. There's an arts education studio in Cameron, and I had worked with them as sort of a coordinator of events. When they had a dance recital or a concert, I would coordinate their events from a theatrical side. And that studio had become so overbooked and so overcrowded. And we had too many kids that just didn't have a place to there were no more rooms for classes. So then we thought, we should have another sort of satellite organization and maybe a little ways away. And we were pulling a fair number of students from Moore County. So we found a spot here and thought, well, what are we going to do with the rest of this? And found a way to really grow that original idea of an art studio, an educational art studio, into that plus a performance organization. So doing theatrical events, which give opportunities both to our local audiences and to artists in the region. So we've been excited about doing that, and we made it happen last year, and we had a great first 4 shows, and we were in rehearsal for the 5th show, and then one day we were at rehearsal, and the next day everything was closed.
Was that the 5th show was February, March?
We were in rehearsal March, yep. And Jacob is going to be our choreographer. And it was The Little Princess, a beautiful musical.
Okay.
And it was sounding so great. We'd been in rehearsals, and it was just already breathtaking work. And then we just had to turn in our scripts and went home.
Way back in February, we had Morgan Sills on from the Judson Theater Company,
Yes.
and he had his 2 lead actresses that came in, and they actually got here. They arrived in Moore County for rehearsals for his production for the spring.
Yeah.
3 or 4 days after we had the show, they all went home.
Yes.
Everybody just sort of had to close down shop, and it, for them, even in the best of times, take away the presence of a pandemic. It's a tough business to generate income. You guys work on tight margins.
Absolutely.
Throw the pandemic in.
Yeah.
And now you guys are trying to fly under the radar and get out with a production.
Yeah, absolutely. And that show, when we stopped production for Little Princess, we had some actors from out of town who had arrived, and we just put them back on planes and said bye.
So you had some losses you had to absorb?
Definitely. We had already, the way, some organizations would work, and some businesses models would, you have the money and then you spend it. But in theater, it's all with the fingers crossed.
Right.
You spend the money hoping that the ticket sales will come and help cover those costs. But when you don't have the opportunity to ever have the ticket sales, some of those original outputs of costs are just gone.
Right. So Jacob, I'm listening to her speak, and I can see how kids, I'm talking about high school kids, who might be in workshops or drama workshops with her, could get completely enrolled in her enthusiasm and her passion.
Absolutely. She's wonderful
my
with
gosh.
children, and she gets them all excited, and they love to be around her, so we have a great time.
Yeah. I mean, your passion is really terrific.
Well, thank you.
How do you keep the tone and the tenor so high in such a stressful time? I mean, it's not easy.
No, that is true. And there's always, in any situation, there's going to be a moment or a day when you think, oh, this is rough.
Yeah.
But I do kind of truly believe that some of it's a personal choice. I get up and I truly say, all right, here we go. This is going to be the best day ever. Like, I literally pep talk myself like that every day. And I keep going throughout the day until about midnight when I'm like, I got no more. And I fall asleep.
And I think
Well,
it's part of our
Jacob-
job to
Yeah.
inspire, because that's what the arts is all about, is inspiring. So it's part of our job to
Yeah.
keep that positive attitude and keep
Yep.
thinking, tomorrow is going to come
gonna be
and
the
we're going to
greatest.
do it. So
How did, Jacob, the two of you guys hook up? I mean, you have a history. You have some...
we do. So both of us were involved with the Temple Theater.
Okay.
Greta was working there, and I would come down as a director choreographer, and she was always in shows for me. So that's how we
come
first
down
met.
from where?
I'm from New York City.
Okay.
I originally grew up in Ohio, but I moved to New York City, and
Okay.
that's where I've kind of made my career. And then, all of us start out as actors and dancers and singers, and then you reach an age where you realize that you don't want to do that 7 days a week anymore. So you become a director and choreographer. And so I would come down and do shows, and Greta was always in my shows, and we were always had a lot of fun together and great time. So
So you're living down here now?
now I'm here. Greta and I are living together, as a matter of fact.
Is that right?
We are.
Do you miss New York?
Right now, no. There are times that I do, but yes, of course.
But the New York
It is.
before the pandemic.
Absolutely. New York is one of a kind, and there's,
The energy.
absolutely something to do 24/7.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
You don't always find that in Southern
no,
Pines.
not always.
So people now these days, they say, oh, I miss New York. I want to go visit. But what you're going to go visit now is not the same New York.
Absolutely not.
It's a complete. I grew up in Brooklyn,
Right,
and
right,
in
right. I
northern New
remember that.
Jersey. Yeah, I have family who lives in Manhattan, and my one sister told me. She said, "Bill," she said, "being in Manhattan right now is like being in Manhattan in the 1950s. The air quality has improved so much.
Wow.
There's less traffic,
Absolutely.
automobiles and such. You can walk down the streets and down Central Park West and actually get a sense of the beauty of, because New York City, there are portions that are just gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Absolutely.
And now it's a much more civilized, and you can hear yourself think.
And New Yorkers actually go to Times Square now because no one's there.
That industry clobbered.
Oh, absolutely. Shut down.
So the actors, the directors, the choreographers, they're all out of work.
They're all out of work, but at the same time, again, keeping positive, they're all trying to find new and different ways, going online and having Zoom meetings and Zoom classes of singing and dancing and even acting and directing. You can take Zoom class, Zoom online and
That's right.
do a group meeting and do it that way. You just have to create new ways and new routes for you to get the arts out there.
I have a friend who he's a yoga instructor. He lives in Winston-Salem. He had a business that was growing. Now, he's sort of remodeled himself. He's doing his yoga classes via Zoom.
Absolutely.
People are signing up. Everybody is trying to accommodate. So anyway, so you are now living here in Moore County.
I am. I've only been here 3 weeks.
Yeah, about.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just got here.
Is that
So,
right?
Yeah, August 10th I started, as a matter of
I
fact.
think so.
So there's something really attractive about small town living, especially in these times. You read about people exiting New York, exiting urban areas, densely populated areas,
Absolutely.
because it's safer, it's more civilized, and Moore County we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth as a result. We're picking a lot. So, and the people that are here, it's the marketing that you do has to be very personal because people. It's not anonymous, like, who's going to show up. I mean, you were saying that ticket sales have been very brisk for this production.
Yes.
So I assume you're going to be paying attention to spacing.
Absolutely, and that's why it is exciting that the tickets are selling well. It's a really nice pre-sale. Tickets purchased ahead of time for a production for us, but we also have a limited space. Even though we're outdoors, which is a big space, we're trying to be really conscientious. It's really important to myself and members of our organization to be conscientious about staying as safe as possible.
Right.
So we're out in the parking lot, so we have lots of room, but everybody has their own bubble, and we are capping it at a total number of people within the space. And we're being careful about making sure everything, like concessions, were prepackaged, and we're encouraging people to bring their own lawn chairs so that they're not touching the same things that someone else maybe sat in the day before. So we're working hard to keep things as safe as we can.
Okay. The type of demographic that you are hoping to attract to a production like this, is it adults? Is it families?
I would say both.
Both.
I think anyone who's probably, maybe 8 years old or so
Absolutely.
would have a great time. And it certainly would be great for adults, but I think certainly elementary age and middle school kids would have a good time as well.
Okay. The event it's 39 steps. It's going to be at the Encore Center outside, as you said, Jacob, behind the Beltry, that area.
Correct. That we have a parking lot right behind our building.
Yeah.
And it's a big area, and we'll mark everything off with chalk lines, and people will know exactly where they're going, and it'll be perfect.
And it's 3 evening performances.
That's exactly right. We start at 7:30 each of those nights so that we're ready for sundown.
Okay, that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 11th through the 13th. General admission is only $10. I want to get into that because I don't know how you can only charge $10 and stay viable.
Well, we're one of the things that is a goal that we are trying to hold to even in this time is that we want the arts to be accessible, right? So we don't want it to be, boy, I would love to go see that with my friend or my family, but we just can't afford it.
Okay, let's come back in the second set. I want to ask you why you selected a Hitchcock production
Perfect.
for this. We're back, our second set of All Things Moore County. We're going to be talking all about the production, The 39 Steps by Alfred Hitchcock at the Encore Center, which is located in downtown Southern Pines at 160 East New Hampshire. It's going to be an outdoor event, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings, the 11th through the 13th next weekend. And I don't know about you guys, but in our political climate, in our pandemic, I have taken to Netflix.
Of course.
I have taken to. I'm watching foreign films with subtitles,
As well.
and I'm binge watching. And everyone is looking for something to an escape.
Yeah.
But watching Netflix doesn't achieve socializing.
True.
Outdoor theater is an event. It's the timing is good.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 39 Steps and why you selected it as opposed. I mean, there's so many different types of productions you could have done.
Sure.
You're on.
Well, I'll give you the logistics.
She's so shy.
Yeah, she is.
Of why I thought this was right, and then I'll let Jacob talk about the artistry because he's directing it.
Okay.
So essentially, with the suggestions of how to best stay safe during the pandemic, some things that are generally at this point to be approached with caution are, large groups of people and singing. So that took out musicals.
Singing because of airborne.
Yes, if you're singing well,
Action
your
travels
air's going
farther
far.
than just talking.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that knocked out musicals and large casts. So we brought down to a small cast, straight being a non-musical show. So then there were that took us down to a smaller number. And I did think at this time we didn't need to necessarily be really covering some, challenging material. It's a time for something that's just fun and enjoyable laughter. So that's why we honed in on a small cast play.
And
which is fun.
musicals are more expensive to put on.
They
Absolutely.
are. That's absolutely true. So, this also helps on that. The financial side of the pandemic is that we can work with a smaller cast, so there's smaller number of costumes. There's fewer actors that we need to, worry about taking care of. So that also helps. But that's what sort of the logistics of it. But I'll let Jacob discuss the artistry of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like she said, it's 4 actors, 3 men and Greta. One man plays himself through the whole thing. Greta plays 3 different characters. And then the 2 other men are known as Clown 1 and Clown 2. They play about 11 or 12 characters each.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, so it's fun just watching the 4 of them work together and how they quick change into a different costume to come on as a different person, and it's all this craziness. The show is based on originally a novel from 1915.
Okay.
That then was made into a movie in 1935.
Okay.
And then was made into a play. And so we're doing it with a minimal set. We're using trunks and ladders and chairs and making the audience kind of imagine what's going on.
So give me the Cliff Notes version of 39 Steps.
So a gentleman is caught up in a murder or wrongly accused of a murder, and he spends the show trying to prove his innocence.
Okay.
So, and madcap farce along the way. There's a train involved. He jumps on top of the train that we have to produce on stage. He runs across the Scottish moors, running from biplanes that are shooting at him, and ends up, back in London at the London Palladium for the final performance. So, it's just a madcap, crazy time, and like I said, lots of laughter and just fun.
So it's a Hitchcock, but do people associate Hitchcock with laughter?
No, I do think it is very tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
There are some moments But the show, has moments of Psycho, Vertigo, North by Northwest. All those great Alfred Hitchcock movies are all, there's little bits of them in this show. So it brings a lot of Alfred Hitchcock in it, but we do try to find the funny side of it. And there's a lot of, yucca, yucca, yucca going on that stage with these four, let me tell you.
Is that right?
It is.
So in a more perfect world, if things were pre-pandemic, would the Encore Theater also be reaching out to some of the students in the school systems to keep them involved in the arts?
Absolutely. And even our own education department, because we have so many kids in our dance classes and our acting classes and our singing classes, we try to do at least one show, if not more, that involves them so that they can be on our stage as well.
And we did last year, for example, we had Christmas Carol last year for our first holiday, and we had about 20 student actors in that cast as well as the adult actors, and we did school day shows as well. So while we had the same performance we'll see at night, but doing it in the morning, so we had schools come from several counties to see our school day shows.
Tell me about the theater, the indoor theater.
Yeah.
If you were putting on a production indoors, what kind of seating capacity? What? Tell me about the building.
This was the former Powell Funeral Home.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely building. There's so many different rooms that we have space for students and costumes and scenery. And the former chapel we have renovated into a performance space. It seats about 160. I think 161 is our capacity.
Really?
On church pews because it's an old chapel. And yes, we've done some work so that it now has like a technical booth so that the stage manager and the board operators can see from the back of the house. We have moved out some of the back wall of that space so that we can get in and out of the performance space from backstage without being so seen by the audience. So we've done some work in the room.
What the building itself? It's an older building.
It is, yes.
Tell me about the acoustics.
The acoustics in there are lovely. This is the first show that we will be really using microphones because outdoors it's pretty essential.
Yes.
But in that space, because it's a smaller room and it's an older building, the acoustics are lovely for a straight play where people aren't necessarily singing over accompaniment. It sounds really nice.
The space really does have a black box feel without being a true black box because we can't change the formation of where the stage is.
Right.
But it's a ceiling. We don't have a fly space, so you don't lose all that sound. So everything is within that room. So it actually does very well.
Knowing how difficult it is with very tight margins and high expenses of production, does the theater, would it lend itself to in addition to productions, an indoor concert,
Yes.
Small music group where people could come?
Absolutely.
More cost effective?
Yeah, absolutely. And last year we did have several organizations that rented it for their own private events. We had some schools that were there renting it for that sort of thing, concerts and classroom plays and that sort of thing. We may be the host of Ms. Senior North Carolina, I believe, if the pandemic allows such things. So organizations, we are happy to have them use space, and it's a lovely little performance space.
Do you guys have a website set up?
We do. EncoreCenter.net. Yeah, and there's lots of information about tickets as well as classes. And
you can also check us out on Facebook at the Encore Center, and it'll bring up all of that information, and all that information is there as well.
What do you have planned going forward, assuming that things, different types of productions on tap? Can we talk about them?
Yes. We have announced that, again, assuming everything continues in a similar situation that we're in right now. Following 39 Steps, we will be doing the Brothers Grimm Spectaculathon in October, also outdoors, because we feel like outdoors in October is still okay.
Yeah.
Not that
in October,
cold.
you're going to... Oh, really?
Yes, mid-October. I don't remember the dates right off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. Mid-October.
Okay.
And that one will be even more family-friendly, but another outdoor sort of picnic theater. I like calling it picnic theater. I think that's kind of fun.
Right.
But after that, we have to sort of analyze the situation. We have Christmas plans to do Christmas shows. We sort of investigated 2 more specifically, but we just don't know what the...
As you can imagine, we're as uncertain about all of this as everyone else is. So we are going out on a limb and trying this because we want to perform. We know that the community needs some arts and we need to socialize a little bit with being cautious.
Right.
So we don't know what we're going to run into. We've never put our lights outside. We've never put our sound outside. So there's a lot of unknown stuff. So we're trying these 2 shows out, seeing where we are, and then going forward from there.
So the outdoor event that you're going to have next weekend, obviously masks are required to come in. Okay. But of course, as it's like going into a restaurant where they say, you must have a mask on. Fine. However, you want to eat. You can't have a mask on.
Absolutely.
True.
And so the spacing of the tables hopefully offsets that. Yeah.
Right. So we're hoping that, and we're also hoping that that being outside is some of the ambient movement of air, and the fact that everyone is actually pointing the same direction is maybe useful as well. If you're in a restaurant, people are sitting every which way, but everyone should be looking at the stage more or less. So hopefully that will also help.
The event is the 39 Steps. It's going to be at the Encore Center next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings at 7:30. Tickets are only $10. It's going to be an outdoor event. Because there are only 4 actors, it's an improv as well.
It's pretty much all scripted. I mean, but the 2 clowns in particular, because they have so many different roles, you'll feel at moments that they're definitely improving.
Are they local actors?
All of us are North Carolina.
North Carolinians.
Yes. The furthest one is from up near Raleigh and Durham, but he comes down and. Okay. The rest of us are more local. Siler City. We have one from Siler City.
Okay. We'll be back in the 3rd set where we're speaking with Greta Zandstra and Jacob Toth, the artistic and educational directors of the Encore Center, as we move into what is typically a beautiful and very active filled autumn. Weather-wise is always great. Always a lot of events coming up this year, not so much. So anything that does happen is gravy, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. Next weekend, the 39 Steps, an Alfred Hitchcock play, a movie, book, will be reproduced by the Encore Center at 160 East New Hampshire. It's going to be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings, the 11th through the 13th. Tickets are only $10. There's a VIP ticket for $20, which includes premium seating and a basket of chef-curated snacks and beverages. I've noticed, guys, in our area this year, you talk about businesses, how they accommodate. I notice a huge presence of food trucks that attend events or lease space from well-located businesses, especially when dining in was a no-no. And now that you're accommodating by doing this outdoor theater, let's say that you can go back indoors, but you've developed a business model where outdoor theaters actually become a thing, working with food trucks and setting up concessions and such. I could see that as a change or a new addition to the business model that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's so negative. She's never positive. She's never up. Everything, she just, no, I don't think. Your enthusiasm is great.
We think, anything that kind of makes the event more fun.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of was the idea with our picnic baskets. Also, we didn't know how things would turn out. We still don't know how things will turn out. So we thought it was a way that we could provide a little more fun and kind of add to the value of the event with things that we feel like we can be reasonably sure are safe. So we have a whole collection of prepackaged snacks that are,
Great.
that you
Even
can enjoy.
Even $20. I mean, that is just so reasonable. How long is the production going to be?
It just runs about 2 hours exactly.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's $20. It's a great deal. Dorothy brought up something in the break, and forgive me for not bringing it up, but that's why I have her. She's very attuned. Rain date. What happens if you run into some inclement weather?
Yeah.
How are you accommodating that?
Well, weather is one of the fun things about outdoor theater. You never know exactly what you're going to get.
Especially in North Carolina.
Right. That's right.
So there is that chance. There definitely is. When I've done outdoor theater other places, sometimes you run into it. Now, first of all, I always like to say what my farm grandma used to say, you ain't made of sugar. So a little teeny, she would say, you ain't made of sugar.
You're not going to melt.
You're not going to melt. So if it's a teeny little sprinkle, we'll just keep on going because we ain't made of sugar. But, if there's rain that is actually noteworthy, or if we run into some other weather problems, we have some dates the next weekend, which are essentially rain dates. So if you were to purchase a ticket and you're going to go and it's great, but there's a big rainstorm and we're forced to stop, then we'll just rearrange those into different events.
Yeah. You know what concerns me a lot about a lot of organizations that require or depend on annual donations and participation, different theaters. The need is still there. The requests are still going out, but the companies are not in any sort of full production mode. And so I feel like there are some businesses and industries that suffer more than others. Mm-hmm. Publications that come out, the Arts Council, for instance, the Golf Capital Corps. There's so many organizations that require or depend upon private donations. No different for the Encore Center.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But it's not as fertile an environment for that as it once was. Are you guys seeing that?
Absolutely, definitely.
Huh?
And some of the simple things that we were sort of just chatting about in the break. That, for example, when you open up a playbill, when you go to see a show, there's advertisers, and that's a significant amount of our revenue. But when we don't feel like it's necessarily the safest thing to have handed out things, we're going to do a little QR code so that you can look at your program on your own phone. But that does cut down on the advertising revenue that people are interested in spending.
Yep.
And we don't necessarily know what our full season is going to look like. So whereas last year we had several organizations that were season sponsors, we can't even say to them, we're going to do these 5 shows. We don't know. So that is a little challenging.
And we've talked about also, theater is very front end loaded. All of our cost comes before we even start the show. We have to pay for the rights to the show. We have to pay actors to come and be in rehearsal with us. We have to pay for our costumes because we have to have those all before the show starts.
Right.
So everything that we pay for, we need money now.
Right.
And then we make it back once we do the ticket sales and all that other stuff. So it's an interesting business model.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurant business, the theater business, they're risky businesses.
Absolutely.
And you have to, the retail business, you have to reinvent yourself every season. And God forbid you make a mistake or you read the market incorrectly for one season. The ramifications are long.
Absolutely.
One of the things people can do if they're not comfortable making donations like they did in the past, or if they're scaling down, they can purchase gift certificates for future use.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Right? Retailers are doing that. They did it this spring. Anything to support local business.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess on your website, they'll get all the information that they need. If they want to engage with you,
yes,
they can start at the website and go from there.
Yes.
But bottom line is people have to think outside the box. And that's what you guys
have to in
look
these
like.
times.
That's
Definitely.
what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, and nobody cares how we feel because we all have to do it. So no drama, no
Nope.
feelings, just
Nope.
execute. Go out and focus and execute and hope for the best. And you learn from each experience.
Yes.
You make an impression on people when you step outside of your comfort zone. And in a small community like this, people do take notice. And I always go back to the students. They're always looking for things to do, and there's a real lack of activities going on right now. But the summer classes that you used to speak about,
Yes.
enrollment was always high, enthusiasm was always high. I mean, is that something that you're hoping as you evolve into next year that you'll be
Yes,
reaching into the
absolutely.
school community?
Yes, and we have actually had, this summer was a little different, of course, because we couldn't start at the beginning of the summer like we often do, and we couldn't have big camps with a lot of students like we would generally do, but we've still had that level of enthusiasm. When we offer things, people want to do it, and this is really a lot of stuff that Jacob's working with right now, so I'm sure he can give us better insight.
Yeah, so we're doing musical theater classes and auditioning classes, and it's not a full-scale production like Greta and I have both done in the past with kids, but it is something to engage them, and again, smaller numbers and keeping them safe, but yet bringing their artistic side and their imaginative side out and having fun with them. We're not doing live performance when we do the summer camp right now, or the one we did this past year. We filmed it, and then the parents got a video of it so they could see it. And then, right now we're also getting ready to help the school system, because here in Moore County, as you know, kids are going to school 2 days a week, either a Monday, Tuesday, or a Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday, is
Swing
nothing's
day.
around. So we're actually going to be providing some Wednesday classes.
Yes, and we've added to our classes that we would generally have, because now we do have some of that daytime availability where students don't have to be at school, and we've had an interesting influx of students that we didn't necessarily have a lot of last year. We have during the summer a beautiful orchestra, a student orchestra, all middle school and high school students, because those students didn't have the opportunity to study that as they usually would in the normal school setting. So we've got some new things that we're offering to sort of fill in the gaps, all within the world of the arts. Our visual arts program has really grown a lot too. So for students who are painters and sculptors and like to draw, we have things for those students
We
as
do
well.
a little bit of everything at the Encore Center. So
Well, but you have to.
you do. You do.
You
We're doing
have to.
kinder music with babies and their mothers. So
Is that right?
We do.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We're a licensed kinder music provider. To say you offer kinder music, you have to go through a fairly extensive training. And we have 2 licensed kinder music providers. And it's very interesting. If you ever have the opportunity to spy on one of these classes, it's amazing how those tiny, tiny, like babies that they still have to hold in their arms respond to the music. It's phenomenal.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
You probably should post a video of it on
should.
one of your
That's
websites.
a great idea.
It's beautiful.
Just to
There's-
draw people in. And do you do your own social media?
We do, yes. We have Instagram and Facebook, which we're fairly active,
Okay.
providing just little sneak peeks of what we're doing.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. The 39
having
Steps next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening, 7:30 shows, $10 tickets, $20 VIP tickets with a picnic basket. And we hope the weather is
Keep your
agreeable.
fingers crossed.
Otherwise, the weekend of the 18th, you'd have a rain date. In closing, I just want to both ask you, what do you hope to accomplish after this? As a result of putting this production on, where do you want to be in 2 weeks when you look back? What would you like to say about how it went?
I think that part of the challenge
There's not
is
a
just
question that I can ask that she can't answer. Not one question.
Absolutely not.
She's at the ready to speak, always.
She's on it.
part of the challenge is just to see if we can make it happen,
Yeah.
right? And so there's some of it is a hurdle for ourselves. Like, we can do something that we haven't tried before, and like you were speaking of, doing things that are outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're all ready to give each other a little pat on the shoulder, be like, we did it. But also to offer the community who is hungry to do something that feels pretty safe,
Yeah.
something to do. I think that all of us, when we are still at home after so many months and still feel like it's not really safe to do these things that I really enjoy, it brings me so much
Yeah.
happiness to
Yeah.
think that we can offer families in this area the ability to do something that feels fun and safe.
Yeah.
And
Jacob?
together as a family and with other families, because kids right now, I think it's a socialization that the kids are missing. They're not in school with their friends. And that's what I hear most from our students
Right.
is, I miss my friends.
Right.
And so that we're providing a space where they can safely see one another
Right.
and enjoy a show together, live theater.
Right.
I can't think of anything better right now.
Well, I applaud both of you. And, I will tell you that sometimes in these days, if you're endeavoring to do something like this and you can break even, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
That's a very noble goal in these days. Sometimes you look, because you learn as you go.
Yes.
And if you can break even, it's like a free education.
Yes. I
Right?
like that.
Isn't it?
And you asked where we want to be in 2 weeks. 2 weeks after this show closes, we want to be in rehearsal for our next one.
Right.
So that would be make us more happy than anything.
I hope you people who are listening will go out and watch Hitchcock's production of the 39 Steps at the Encore Center, 160 East New Hampshire. Go onto their website, encorecenter.net. Is that correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
And the shows are 7:30 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening, the 11th through the 13th. Wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having
It
us.
was great to see you both again. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.